Have you ever wanted to dive deeper into the horror movies you love? Beyond the Blood is a horror podcast for fans who want more than just surface level screams. We do deep dives into the movies that shaped us, digging into director commentaries, behind the scenes stories, deleted scenes, and the special features that most people skip. Each episode is a love letter to the genre. We break down how these films were made, the creative risks that paid off or didn't, and the lasting impact they've had on the genre as a whole. From 70s slashers to modern nightmares, we celebrate the craft, chaos, and characters that keep us coming back. If you're the kind of fan who rewatches movies with the commentary on, or you simply grew up in the video store horror aisle, the Beyond the Blood podcast was made for you. New episodes every single week. Subscribe, and let's dig deep. Welcome to the Beyond the Blood podcast.
Hello, my name is Kevin Tudor, and I'm one of the three hosts of Almost Major, a film podcast dissecting many major indie studios and the films they release. Every week, myself, Charlie Nash, and Bryden Doyle discuss overlooked, forgotten, or bona fide classic indie films via studio-specific miniseries. We've previously covered numerous films from Artisan Entertainment, Lionsgate Films, and New Line Cinema. Titles including The Blair Witch Project, American Psycho, Dogville, But I'm a Cheerleader, Saw, Requiem for a Dream, and Ringmaster, you know, the Jerry Springer film. Anyways, we have a fun time every week and we hope you will join us. Subscribe to Almost Major wherever you get your podcasts. Now proudly a part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
We're in Way Media.
Welcome back to Midnight Viewing. I'm Father Malone, and actually, welcome back to Fusco Fest. Joining me here as we run down the works of screenwriter John Fusco is the host of Noise Junkies and tonight, Mr. Walters, and lover of all things Fusco, sometimes, Mr. HP. HP, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay, Father Malone, ready to put on my cryptozoologist hat and talk some cryptids with you.
Some cryptids, the cryptid. We're on our way to Scotland. Oh, boy. Now, so far, we have covered Crossroads, Young Guns, to The Babe, Thunderheart, and now Loch Ness.
From the company that brought you 4 weddings and a funeral comes the story of a timeless mystery whose time has come.
You want me to go find the Loch Ness Monster? Is that what you're offering me? No, John. I want you to take this state-of-the-art equipment and prove that it's the biggest hoax of the century. Now that's a monster.
So you'll be another beastie hunter?
Yeah, that's correct. But I don't have much time, you know. I gotta get up to Greenland before winter hits, find Santa Claus. Stay away from my monster! I'm gonna catch your monster and I'm gonna put it on Oprah Winfrey! There's nothing down there, there's nothing unexplained flying around the skies at night.
But in a place that still believes in magic.
Are you telling me you actually saw?
It's my friend.
A young girl holds the key.
She inherited it from her grandmother. The ability to see things sometimes.
To the greatest secret of them all.
Oh my God. It's the perfect elasmosaur, right down to the rhomboid frontal, see?
Mr. Dempsey, is the water kill pig?
My guess is it's part of something very large and very much alive. We got something here. Fire up the strobes. It's coming towards the surface. It's moving too fast. It's moving too fast.
Why did you do it? You scared it away and never come back.
Ted Danson.
You want me to pretend that I didn't see this?
Jolie Richardson
There's some things that are meant to be left alone.
in the year's most magical adventure.
I have to see it before I can believe it.
No, Mr. Dempsey. You've got to believe it before you can see it.
Oh my
Loch Ness.
Loch Ness, released on February the 9th, 1996 in the United Kingdom and September the 20th, 1996 in the United States. Written by John Fusco, directed by John Henderson, starring Ted Danson, Jolie Richardson, Ian Holm, and James Frain. Is the story of it is the story of a cryptozoologist. You mentioned cryptozoologist at the beginning, who has been disgraced for his lifelong dream of exposing the Yeti. That's proven to be just a complete and utter hoax, and is at the end of his academic tether, is given the only job he can possibly pull off, which is to map Loch Ness to prove that there is no famed monster. HP, this your first time seeing Loch Ness?
Like many of these latter-day Fusco films, this was my first go-around with Loch Ness. Yes.
Did you enjoy Loch Ness? And what's your experience of Loch Ness prior? Not the movie. I'm talking about the idea of Loch Ness. Start there. Let's start there.
Sure. I will say this, like many kids, I'm sure maybe you were the same way, Father Malone. I went through an obsession with cryptids like Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster and all of that. That's UFOs, anything that was unexplained phenomena. So I came into this excited because I hadn't really thought about the Loch Ness Monster in quite a long time. And I know just from research that this project was obviously very near and dear to John Fusco. So I was excited to see this. But as far as any direct experience, the closest I can say, I was telling you the story off the air that my wife's aunt was from Glasgow, very proud of Scottish ancestry. So I was excited to delve into this and see what Loch Ness had to offer. How about you? Was this your first time seeing Loch Ness?
First time seeing the movie. I remember when it came out, I was a projectionist in Santa Monica at the time, but I worked at an art house. So basically, if it was a more mainstream flick, it wasn't going to come my way. And if it wasn't coming my way, then I had to go seek it out. And that usually involved some sort of trade with another projectionist. And those were near and dear. So I wasn't going to squander it on a children's movie starring Sam Malone. Now, my experience with Loch Ness prior to this is, as you said, cryptids were a big deal for us, for Generation X, certainly a fixation in the 1970s. Most of my cryptid information was and continues to come from one source, In Search Of, starring Leonard Nimoy. I have the entire series. I watched my Loch Ness episode again last night. It's the fucking best. It's in the credit sequence. The famed photo of Nessie, just that sock puppet sticking up out of the water.
I should have done that. I have In Search Of as well. I didn't think to watch that episode. Good on you, Father Malone.
Anytime I'm going to talk anything supernatural or paranormal or anything, out comes the collection of In Search Of first and foremost. And I will proudly cite that as my only source.
It's a scary show at times, wasn't it? It was a little creepy. The unexplained things that, I don't know, like Amelia Earhart was a scary concept for me, that she just fell off the face of the earth. No one knows what happened to her. So that could be a little frightening as a child, but I loved it like you did.
Most of the concepts on the show were really frightening. There was a treasure, a buried treasure where they kept attempting to dig for it, but the hole kept filling itself in, and so many people had died trying, and they kept going, and there was a new expedition mounting, and oh my God, I love everything about In Search Of.
I'm going to paraphrase a Mulaney joke about, he said something to the effect of, he thought that quicksand would be a much bigger problem when he got older. For me, I thought the Bermuda Triangle was going to be a much bigger problem when I grew up than it actually ended up being. That's a frightening concept too. Like the idea that there's this place where planes vanish, ships vanish. And Leonard Nimoy was great.
And of course, Tenacious D has memorialized him and his Bigfoot episode and any of their Sasquatch things and the original things. Not only was I fascinated by Loch Ness, the Loch Ness Monster, from the In Search of episode, but I have a very distinct memory in fifth grade of both the fourth and fifth grades of the Immaculate Conception School in our little Catholic uniforms. We were marched down the street to the local library, where in the children's section, we were shown some sort of 16 millimeter film about the Loch Ness Monster. It made a huge impression on me because it made it real. The fact that it seemed to be an official school sanctioned trip to a library to watch this thing convinced me that there was a prehistoric dinosaur living in a giant lake in Scotland that had been closed off from the saltwater surrounding ocean and somehow survived for hundreds of, not centuries. Those are the same thing.
There's something about the way it's almost like it's academically sanctioned for you to see a film of it on a school trip. But yeah, I agree. That iconic picture of the head of Nessie coming out of the water, which I think was eventually debunked as being fake. But I don't know. Obviously, cryptid hunters want clear footage, clear evidence, but the fact that all of these pictures are fuzzy and zoomed in and blown out just made them more stark to me and more, I don't know, there was something harsh and scary about the whole thing.
Yeah, now you can show me footage of the Loch Ness Monster coming up onto land and rampaging through the wilds of Scotland, and I wouldn't believe it. But that fuzzy photograph, that blurry, I think it could be something, was definitely an actual monster that had been captured idly by some passersby.
Yeah, totally.
Now, listen, I'm a fake priest named Father Malone, but Wallace is the actual last name, and I'm as Scottish as the fucking day is long. So anytime you're going to make a movie and put it in Scotland, I'm probably going to go see it. I didn't go see this one. I had my fill with Rob Roy by this time.
Was that a pun? You had your fill of Rob Roy?
No, but it does work. It does work both ways, doesn't it?
Yeah, the drink.
That movie, I don't know, man. That movie, it put the kibosh on my enthusiasm for Scottish things for a little while. I did not enjoy Rob Roy. And then, of course, we had the Braveheart came out. Listen, I am wearing my kilt right now. I am wearing it. HP has seen it. He can attest to it. He's here in the studio. I am wearing the Wallace tartan today. I love all things Scottish. I love all of their weirdo fucking myths and legends, and the Kelpie in particular, the water horse that seems to show up in every region of Scotland, actually all over the Celtic map. I love all of that. And here, you know what? Here's how I feel about Scotland. I will recite a verse from Mr. Michael Scott, not the guy from The Office, but the lead singer of the Waterboys, who said that of his body, England is the spine, the backbone and the trunk. Scotland is his dreaming head, and Ireland is his heart, although his Wales is his two hands held apart. I don't want to leave out Wales. So anyway, Scotland is his dreaming head. That's how I think about Scotland. It is airy and wild and weird, and it is my goal to get there. And so on some level, I'm going to be wired to this movie more than I should, just from scenery alone, because something about seeing those stark fucking landscapes really appeals to me on some subatomic level.
A lot of cable knit sweaters being worn by townsfolk and by
Can I just tell you,
they're very cold.
Can I just tell you that I hate cable knit sweaters? I know certain people look great in them, but I do not like them. And that seems to be the one function of the UK that I can really do without.
Ted Danson looked pretty good in his cable knit sweater. It suited him.
Yes. All right. Let's talk about this movie for a second. Let's get into what's the movie about, HP? You that's your job.
So we started to talk about this. So Ted Danson is Dempsey. He's this disgraced cryptozoologist who he's at the end of his rope. He's got no money. He's barely hanging on as a professor of some sort.
His car has fallen apart.
His car's literally died on the freeway. So
speaking of death, this movie opens with a man standing on the bank of the loch and getting startled as he lifts a camera, and then he falls over and cracks his skull open and he dies.
I have a problem with that opening, Father Malone. I have to say, because the whole look, putting aside the advertising and the poster, which is a bit spoilerific, if there's supposed to be this uncertainty over whether the Loch Ness Monster actually exists, within the first 5 minutes, when you see this situation with this other researcher who dies because something comes out of the lock, startles him, he falls and dies after hitting his head. Don't you think it kills the uncertainty of the whole situation? Or are we already meant to believe that it actually exists?
No, I didn't think it ruined the mystery because in my mind, it could have been, as most movies that deal with the Loch Ness Monster, him discovering the hoax and then falling and dying. And then they could have just as easily, by the end of this movie, that little girl leads Ted Danson into a cave where there's a bunch of teenagers going, "Oh no, you've given us away."
I wish I had that uncertainty held in my head, but I couldn't help. Maybe it's because it was tainted by the posters and by the trailer, because it basically gives that part of it away. But let's put that aside for a moment. So there's this other researcher that's been at Scotland researching this. He's died. So Harris Yulin plays, I guess, the dean of the college that Ted Danson is teaching at. And he basically gives him the assignment to go and give definitive proof that the Loch Ness Monster does or doesn't exist. Knowing that, and Dempsey resists this, he doesn't want to go, but he has no choice. He's at the end of his, like I said, he's at the end of his rope here. He's got no other alternatives. He's already a laughing stock because, as you said, he had a infamous expedition to find Bigfoot that yielded nothing. But somehow it actually made his name in cryptid circles, but it didn't do wonders for his career. Quite the opposite. So with no alternative, he goes to Loch Ness to try and figure out if the Loch Ness Monster is real or if he's not. And he runs afoul of all the locals. All the typical predictable things you would expect from a sort of a romantic comedy bent happened to him here. And that's the basic. We won't go into the details. We'll get into the details, but that's the broad stroke of what has to happen.
Let's get into some of those details. Actually, let's just get into the cast if we could, because here's something that I found really admirable in this film. Ordinarily, when you start a movie with the broke down character who gets thrust into some career that they have no business being in or no interest being in, and then they find both rejuvenation in the activity and in their own life. That's across the board. That was all the 90s, right? We saw this type of story 1,000 times. This is the one where I looked at Ted Danson and went, yep, he's broken down and very unpleasant. This character is a prick and he's unlikable. And Ted Danson, Sam Malone manages to pull off what a dick he is. So by the time he starts coming around, I actually believe that, as opposed to 99% of these type of movies where they're just telling us what a prick it is. And it's, yeah, but it's the sweet cuddly guy from all the other sweet cuddly movies.
There's two reasons why I knew that he could play a believable prick. One of them is, do you remember he had a show called Becker, where that was his steez in that show? He was basically an unlikable, crotchety guy. I never watched the show, but I was familiar with the character.
But I bet he was I bet he was crotchety and unlikable the way Archie Bunker was. There's an underlying like lilt of we love this guy. Ted Danson at the beginning of this movie, I really don't like. When he's in the room with Harris Yulin and he's begging off and saying, I ain't doing this. I'm with Harris Yulin. I'm like, good, fuck off. Don't then.
Sure. By the way, the other reason why I knew he could play a believable jerk is because he was so great at playing a jerk version of himself on Curb Your Enthusiasm for 12 seasons. So I knew that he's Ted Danson, so we're pre-programmed to like him because of Sam Malone and so forth. Creepshow, in your case, I'm sure you have a lot of affection there for him. But that part of it I thought was great. But what I thought was amusing was somehow they gave him the hairdo from Lethal Weapon, the Martin Riggs hairdo, the Mel Gibson, which is a little weird. But you're right. And the thing that I also want to talk about in terms of Harris Yulin, who plays, like I said, his superior, is one thing the movie avoided, which would have been so easy not to, is typically in these kinds of situations, the superior who directs their underling to do something can come off as a real asshole. And you're secretly rooting for them to fail. But honestly, Harris Yulin plays this character. He's very nice. He's very tolerant. He only seems to have the best interest of the research at heart. I loved about this, at least at the start.
He recognized that Ted Danson's Dempsey character is going nowhere. He really is the laughing stock, and he's not going to be able to be hired by any other university for research or otherwise. And this is his only shot, and he keeps hanging in until he accepts it. He starts making plans for his tickets for the plane flight over while Ted Danson is still saying no. It's great. It's a great bit of business. It's a great bit of characterization.
It's very funny, but I appreciated that they didn't make him like another antagonist for the main character to deal with. He was actually very reasonable, I thought.
He's rooting for him. He seems an actual friend. Imagine that.
Yeah, exactly.
As opposed to, I'm thinking of summer school in particular with the principal. You're Mr. Shoop. I need you to teach summer school.
Yeah, too often those kinds of characters it's a means to an end. They know that the main character will fail, and they're banking on the fact that they will fail. But in this case, it's the exact opposite. And I found that refreshing.
Okay, before we get to Jolie Richardson, Ian Holm, and James Frain, I want to talk about Nick Brimble.
Let's talk about him. I was delighted to see Nick Brimble in this.
Me too. I love Nick Brimble. Right around this time period, right around the late 80s, early 90s, he seemed to have this crazy renaissance. I know this movie a little bit later. This is like 96. Nevertheless, it's still in that time period. I remember first seeing him in Frankenstein Unbound, Roger Corman's last feature film that I happened to see in the theater, where he played the monster. And they had a crazy, unusual take on the monster, and he's really good in it. And then the next thing is he's in that Robin Hood movie. He's fucking Little John in the Robin Hood Prince of Thieves movie, which they were competing Robin Hood movies. Remember that at the time? There was also, there was one with Uma Thurman and Patrick Bergen.
I forgot about that one. What was that?
Remember, they were both being mounted at the same time, and then the Kevin Costner one really started taking off and bringing all the heat. So the Patrick Bergen one still got shot, but it got relegated to television, and it came out like about a month before the Kevin Costner one, an attempt to circumvent it in some way.
Wow.
I thought I thought both of those movies were garbage, by the way.
My biggest memory of him was from Robin Hood with Little John. He has this sort of beatific face, this incredible smile, these brilliant eyes. He's just such a friendly, warm, cajoling presence. I love that about him.
As Little John, doesn't he look like an Ewok, like a cuddly Ewok baby?
You could have easily seen him playing Hagrid in an alternate universe version of Harry Potter, like a big burly.
Oh my God, he'd be a great Hagrid because he would have a bit of more menace than Robbie Coltrane is not capable of menace. He is, but not really. He would be kidding ultimately. Nick Brimble, you would believe he would fucking hurt you.
Yeah. Yeah, but so I saw him and I'm like, what do I know that guy from? And then when I put two and two together, I was really warmed by his presence. By a lot of the presence, a lot of the actors I had the same reaction to.
James Frain is the contact there, the young believer, the young researcher. I know James Frain mainly for a few seasons. He was on Gotham playing Azrael, one of the fucking villains, one of the Rogues Gallery villains. Galavan, I think that the villain's name is. He was great in that. And then on top of that, he ends up playing Sarek on Star Trek Discovery. So he's now fucking Spock's dad, and great. Like the best one since original Mark Leonard.
He looked so familiar to me. I couldn't put my finger on who the actor was or what he was in. To be honest, I wasn't overly familiar with his catalog or with his roles, but what I was surprised to see, the thing that I was surprised most by was he played a character named Jarvis in the Tron sequel, Tron Legacy. He is the assistant to the Jeff Bridges evil character he's bald with the screen that's omnipresently and over his face. He's like the slimy lackey who tries to help the evil Jeff Bridges do his thing. Looks nothing like he does in this, of course, but what range the guy has. To hear that he was in Gotham, that's crazy.
Yeah, he's got such a great face. It's a cartoon character face, if anything. Speaking of cartoon characters, Ian Holm as the water bailiff. Apparently such a thing is real. There are water bailiffs who can board your ship and say, let's see your fishing license, God damn it. I'm towing this in. I'm going to sink your craft when I get over there. No, you can't actually do any of that. I don't think. No, you can search things. I don't think you can sink anybody.
So he's like a Coast Guard of one on the loch.
Basically, yeah, he's like the harbor master,
Yeah.
but like for an
I,
entire lake.
I figured, look, love Ian Holm is. I'm happy to see him in whatever I'm watching, but I feel like he was the one that they brought in to class up the joint a little bit more, to give it a little more like an imprint of gravitas. I felt like that's because honestly, it's great to have him there, but any number of actors could have also. It's not a very big role. Anyone else could have played it, but it's Ian Holm, so that's automatically going to make it more, like I said, grounded and interesting.
How badly did they want Sean Connery?
Sean Connery, I think, would have been too big for this, though. He would have Yeah, it would have been about Sean Connery because that man he had charisma for days. Not that Ian Holm isn't charismatic, but look, when Sean Connery was on screen, you're looking at Sean Connery and nothing else.
What if Sean Connery played Gordon Scholes, the eccentric who claims that the monster is his?
That probably would have been a more interesting choice. But again, I just think that it's like having Sean Connery at the end of Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, where it takes you out of the movie a little bit because all of a sudden you're like, oh, that's Sean Connery. Not that's Richard the Lionheart. That's Sean Connery up there.
How about Time Bandits? Do you feel the same when you watch Time Bandits?
No, but that could have been because I saw it when I was much younger and he wasn't as dominating a presence for me. But I don't know. It was fine. I didn't have that same reaction, but maybe it's because I was younger and less or more impressionable and didn't really take stock of such things.
I'm not claiming they wanted Sean Connery for this movie or anything. I'm just saying he probably could have pulled it off.
Without a doubt, he could have pulled it off, but I think it would have pulled focus off of whatever else was going on onto him.
Instead, we get Ian Holm,
who's great.
Who's great.
Don't get me wrong, he's awesome. Yeah,
and Jolie Richardson in the lead. I don't think Jolie Richardson is Scottish. I'm going to say that right now, only because it seemed like a poor accent. Am I wrong there? I might be. Her husband was the producer, Tim Bevan.
You are not wrong. Two interesting things to point out. She's from London, so she's English. She's not Scottish, so that was her. I didn't think it was. I'm no linguist, so I thought it was fine. It didn't seem incredibly authentic.
But it seemed, you know what it seemed like, HP? It seemed like she was thinking before every word.
Probably. I think she's pretty good in this, but to your point, she's not Scottish. So I think if you're looking for such things, it might
back to the loch with you, Nessie. That's what I have to say.
I also didn't realize that she was the daughter of Vanessa Redgrave. That's interesting.
Oh, yeah. She's great. Love her. Yeah. I've loved her in other things that just didn't really buy the accent. Sue me.
You didn't buy the accent, but did that mean that you didn't buy the performance ultimately?
No, I did buy the performance because it would seemingly be easy to be exasperated by Ted Danson, particularly as this character. Ted Danson probably would be exasperating in life just in general. He'd constantly be trying to get you to save things.
The dark side of Ed Begley Jr. with his electric car. And
that's right. This is powered by my sense of self-satisfaction. These are all Simpsons jokes I'm just stealing.
Bravo.
Where were we?
So we're talking about Jolie Richardson. We're going through the main cast.
I think that is the main cast, and then there's the little girl. She's fine.
The little girl, by the way, this was her one and only role. She never did anything else after this.
That's fine.
Yeah, she's fine.
She's fine. She doesn't suffer from kid actor-itis. She's not precociousness in child acting is death.
Yeah, no, she was fine. But ultimately, it is really a 3 or 4 person story, right? You have Dempsey, you have his assistant Adrian, you've got the woman with the daughter, and the water bailiff who's managing things.
Her name is Kirsty Graham, by the way. Who else could have played young Isabel? Sean Connery. What do you think?
I thought you were going to say, what's her name from Baron Munchausen?
Sarah Polley. Oh, my constant love affair with Sarah Polley that she's not aware of, but we've been involved with for 20 or so years now. My God, it's been so long, me and Sarah.
What a fucking smart filmmaker she turned out to be.
Good God, man. She's fearsome as a filmmaker. Her short films are fucking fantastic. She made this one short film called Last Night, I believe, which just haunts me to this day, about a couple breaking up, and she convinces him to to re-experience like all of their favorite things like one last time, and it just tears your heart out.
Amazing.
Yeah, but we're talking about the Loch Ness here. We're
Talk about
talking
Loch
about
Ness.
a man reconnecting with his cryptid past. Is that what this movie's about? It's about finding getting back in touch with your roots, even if your roots are based on animals that don't exist.
He's finding his mojo again. At the beginning, he's broken. He's a laughing stock, like you said. He's got nothing going on. I think he even is divorced. They make some mention of that. So he really has come to Scotland really as a bitter, angry, depressed loser who is going through the motions at first, but he does. A spark is lit because they rent a boat. Actually, I think it's Nick Brimble's boat that they rent. Andy McLean, the character,
That's
they rent
right.
his boat.
They soak him for many thousands of dollars, but Ted Danson don't care because the university's paying for it, and Ted Danson's a dick.
Yeah, because at every turn he tries to get lodging at this woman Laura's place, and she soaks him for quadruple the normal rate. Nick Brimble soaks him for it's £20,000 to rent this boat. I don't know how much that is in American dollars, but it sounds like a lot. But every time he does that, Ted Danson's like, I don't care, just charge it to the university. He's a prick. He got a Dr. Mercer is he's hoping that he gives his honest best shot at finding this monster. Why is he being such a prick? I don't know. It takes him a while to warm up.
Why didn't Abernathy already have a boat secure with all this high-tech equipment that they've sent over? Like they're going to prove once and for all that there's no Loch Ness Monster, but we don't have a boat yet. We should have written that down.
Yeah, what was Abernathy's situation? All that I saw of his equipment was a camera that he took a picture of.
Abernathy was a really strong swimmer.
He would just dive into the loch and
snorkeling and a Kodak in a Ziploc.
Just dog paddle his way
That's
out
right.
to the loch. Sure.
That is a scientific method for disproving cryptids.
Sure. But what I was expecting, and maybe it's unfair of me to come in with this expectation, but what I expected was a bit like a local hero type of situation. I think I'm not the first person to make a direct connection between the two movies, but I had expected that this was going to be a Scotland filled with unique and outsized characters that were going to help him find his way back to the person that he always wanted to be. For better or for worse, this is not the movie that we're given. The people there are actually very sensible, except for there's
the one guy. Don't you
Yeah.
think this movie seems to be working against specifically local hero by toning everybody down? And you got to remember, this is also in the wake of not only Twin Peaks, but Northern Exposure. That show is probably still on the air when they're making this movie. So the tendency to write all of the wacky characters that our lead has to wade his way through probably felt a little slack.
That's a very good point. Maybe that was John Fusco's way of kind of confounding those expectations. Like you think you're coming in for a quirky character study, but it's actually closer, not to make a direct comparison, but the thing that I was reminded of as I was watching this was Jurassic Park in a lot of ways. The kind of shock and like wonder of finding something that was thought lost forever. And even some of the directorial choices, especially when we get to the actual moment where are we going to just say, yes, he does. It turns out there's not one Loch Ness Monster, but there's actually two dinosaurs basically living in the loch. And eventually this little girl who shares some kind of a psychic connection to them or something.
Yeah, something.
It's unclear, but Ted Danson gains the little girl's trust. He's not after anything. He just happens to be charmed by her, and they establish a friendship, and she eventually trusts him enough to take him to this castle in the loch where that's the only place you can be assured to find these cryptids, these Loch Ness monsters.
In a cave underneath the castle. They're not hanging out on a parapet or.
No, you have to squeeze through these very tight crevices and things and make your way to this flooded area, and there they are. There's no doubt in anyone's mind that this is the Loch Ness Monster. So as a spoiler alert, they do exist. Dempsey finds them. He goes against the little girl's wishes by taking a photograph of them, or he takes several photographs, which startle the monsters.
Like
and
gremlins, they don't like that.
That's right. Don't feed the Loch Ness monsters after midnight. Never do that.
Evidently,
So,
that's a thing among cryptids, is that they don't like flash photography. And who can blame them?
did you see that famous video of Bigfoot? He looks very disdainfully back at whoever's filming that. He says, "Get out of here! I don't want to see you filming."
Yeah, I
Get
guess
outta here."
cryptids are not fans of just cameras in general.
Why don't we just leave cryptids alone? I guess is what I'm driving at here.
It's too
So
late. We need them to save us now.
But what I actually thought was an interesting aspect, to backtrack a little bit. So Dempsey, before all that happens, we're going out of order here. He's got the boat. He's on the boat with his assistant, and they're trawling the water with all this fancy sonar equipment to try and find the Loch Ness Monster. But they're running up against Ian Holmes's character, the water bailiff. But what the thing that I found interesting that didn't occur to me was the water bailiff, Ian Holm, doesn't want them to find the monster. And it's Dempsey's assertion, which I think is a logical one, that is, what if I can definitively prove that there is no such thing as a Loch Ness Monster, that will kill the tourism in this area. That must be the reason why you don't want me to continue with this. And we actually eventually find out that's the exact opposite is the case. But before we get to that point, there's an episode where some boats come and basically knock all of the equipment off of the boat, sabotaging his equipment and trying to prevent him.
Yeah, they broadside. There are two boats, and they broadside them from either side. They scrape along the hull and knock all their equipment to pieces.
Yeah, but that only serves to cement his resolve, and he basically redoubles his efforts to try and find what's going on. And I think at some point they do discover actual evidence. Something rams their boat, basically destroys it right out from under them. And
I think it was a rental.
Right. That's 20,000 pounds out the window. And I guess we're led to believe that it is the monster destroying the boat, capsizing the boat effectively. Just it's in pieces.
But why would it do that if the little girl has a psychic connection with it?
That I didn't understand. It would have made more sense if it was in some way further sabotaged because aside from this little girl, I'll say, pretty much everybody on the island, at least at the outset, regards Dempsey with, at best, suspicion and at worst, complete disdain for what he's doing and the kind of person he is. So it would have made more sense to me if somebody, like I said, put some kind of explosive on the boat or somehow sabotaged the vessel. But I thought it was odd that we're led to believe these are very gentle, sweet creatures. Why it would destroy the boat and almost kill these guys.
It would make more sense for them to have gone to James Frain. He turned coat.
That would have they could. He was so pure of heart. I don't know.
We're taking on water. See, now he's an Englishman and he had a good Scottish accent.
He did. That was shading very close to Scotty from Star Trek, Father Malone, but it's still better than I
cannot do it.
I'm not even going to attempt it. So anyway, Dempsey has the evidence. He develops these pictures himself, and there is definitive proof that it exists. It's there. And he presents this proof, or he calls Dr. Mercer, Harris Yulin's character, over to. They're gonna have a big presentation in front of a lot of stuffy old white English dudes at some fancy college in London.
Yeah, can I just say, I know this isn't like the best movie, but I did like how low key this movie. It's a little bit of splash with the Eugene Levy trying to prove the thing, but it's as if the Eugene Levy character were the lead of Splash.
It is very low key, and there are parts of it that are charming because in the midst of all of this, Ted Danson's character falls in love with Jolie Richardson's character. She's very hard-hearted. She tries to keep him at arm's length, but eventually a budding romance starts. The problem I have is The timeline of this movie is so compressed. All of this happens within the span of 2, maybe 3 days, because it's 5 days is the duration of his trip. He has to prove this within 5 days. I don't recall why 5
Yeah,
days is the
exactly.
number.
Why is there a clock on this movie? This should have been more like Local Hero. It should have been he spends the entire off season on the lock getting to know everybody. And they're like, it's that fucking American again. And then they fall in love. And then eventually, this movie is confused in that it's trying for a Disney version of a movie in a way without fully committing to it. So it remains charming because it doesn't have if Disney had produced this, there'd be some big jet ski finale, right?
Yeah.
Jet skis and speedboats somehow and whatever. So it fails to engage in that folly, but at the same time, it doesn't give itself over to what it really wants to be, which is a drama that it isn't a family movie first. I don't know. It just doesn't feel like a family movie. If this feels like the story of a fucking broken guy who finds himself. And unfortunately, they've tried to turn it into a Hallmark film.
They do. So he's on the train to London. They're going to give this scientific, it's like a worldwide scientific demonstration for all these scientists. And while he's on the train, wouldn't you know it, the water bailiff is on the same train, and he makes a final appeal, as only Ian Holm can do, to not do this, not present this definitive evidence that these animals do live, because think of how much will be lost. The mystery will be lost, and God knows what they're going to do to these poor animals if the scientific world gets a hold of them. What's it going to do to the village? What's it going to do to the residents and all of that? So he makes a final appeal. It gets in Dempsey's head. They get to the presentation. What happens in the presentation, Father Malone? I'll let you describe the ending here.
Okay. It's the big stuffy room. It's basically like an operating theater scenario, and they've got the slide projector up, and he has his slides placed in, and will he, won't he is where we're at. Will he reveal this and gain notoriety and clear his name and become the fucking academic god that he always thought he would be? Or does he preserve the dignity of these creatures that he's only experienced because he was taken in by these locals? And instead of pictures of the fucking Loch Ness monsters, he shows up a drawing that the child has done of the Loch Ness monster, and the music swells.
Yeah.
Let's continue to talk about this movie, and then let's talk about the music in this movie.
Oh yeah, ready for this. So his conscience wins out. This spells ruin for his reputation. There's no coming back from this, but he doesn't care. Ted Danson's character Dempsey is happy to go back to this quaint little town and be with Jolie Richardson's character and have the daughter there to be a little family. So that part of it, I mean, there was no question when Ian Holm is on the train with him and makes his final appeal. There's no question in my mind that he's not going to sabotage his own future for the sake of the town and for these animals. That I found that a little bit off-putting, a lot off-putting, in fact. It was so predictable.
Two things about Ian Holm. Do you think there maybe was a better location for them to have that final plea than on a train into London, considering how water-based this entire film is? Could they have maybe been on a ferry?
That would have been a lot, because you would have felt like the Ian Holmes character was more in his element.
And you would have looked around at modern London where all of these watercraft are going and it's polluted and gross. And you could say, this is what they want with water these days. And this is what the loch will become. Anyway, we always hear anytime you see a behind the scenes and a director is talking about working with Ian Holm, they'll always say, from take to take, you are getting different versions of the character. You've heard this before, right? Peter Jackson saying you're getting different flavors of Bilbo. every time. I wonder sometimes what those flavors were like. If you did 7 takes of this speech of him imploring Ted Danson to not give up the reality of these monsters, were you getting a comedic version? Were you getting like a goofy version of Ian Holm? Were you getting that?
Like a Jerry Lewis version where he's
Yeah.
falling over himself?
Come on now, Mr. Dempsey. You can't the monsters. Like, I wonder sometimes how far that goes. I don't know. I just think it's funny because every single take, it's so distinctive and you have so much to play with. Like, how far?
Yeah, how many different flavors of him in Alien do you suppose there is also? Because he's playing an android, right?
And he knows he's an android, and he knows the audience doesn't know he's an android, and he has to keep that concealed. So yeah, how many layers, how many flavors of Ash where we really get it?
Yeah. Yeah. But he's, again.
And what would happen if Ian Holm came up against Stanley Kubrick, man of 1,000 takes?
Yeah.
Would Ian Holm have exploded?
It's like the classic Stephen Wright joke about putting instant coffee in the microwave and he almost went back in time. I just think the world would have ended and that would have been it. But he is really good. If anyone's going to persuade you not to sell out this community, I'd want it to be Ian Holm because he's very persuasive in the scene.
Hey, everything ends up happy. And I believe, like I said earlier, the transformation of Ted Danson, because I believe him as a nice guy just as much as I believe him as a prick. I also always believe Ted Danson around children. He seems genuinely interested and cares for children. I love all the interactions between him and the child here in this movie.
That was probably my favorite part of the movie is this budding relationship they have where they sit down at the table and he's teaching her how to play poker and they're playing little games and you can see this cloud lift off of the character the more that he gets to know the daughter and obviously the daughter's the mother, the love interest. But that part of it is very charming.
Even just a moment where it's like, can I just sit here with you? And they just, I don't know. Yeah, charming is the word. Like I found that part of the movie fantastic. Now, let's talk about a part of the movie that I did not find fantastic. Just mentioned it.
The music.
The music. Now, I know you have a particular hatred for one aspect of the music of this film. We'll get to that. First, we have to deal with Trevor Jones. I genuinely like Trevor Jones as a composer. He's composed some of my favorite scores for some of my favorite films. I don't know what he's doing here. He's scoring that Disney movie I was mentioning. It's all bombast. It's all heartstrings. It's all this. You could have slapped this score. I know you mentioned that there's a lot of like Scottish flavor in it, and there's some. And yes, my heart does sing when I hear a buran, which is the sort of drum, the hand drum you play. When I hear one of those, oh my God, it really does. It makes me feel really good. But those are few and far between. The rest of it feels like any fucking Hallmark score for any kind of 90s sort of melodrama. Like this could have been any like Michelle Pfeiffer romantic comedy score.
It's every emotional beat is being telegraphed by the score in this. And I found that so grating. It could have been a lot more subtle and a lot more muted and in line with the peacefulness of the setting. But it grated on me over time. And like I said, there's purposeful Scottish flavor to it, which I know you said you didn't mind it and that's fine. But for me, it just seemed like a lazy shortcut to making it feel more authentic to the setting. And I really didn't appreciate that much. But having said that, I agree with you. I think Trevor Jones is a wonderful composer. He did Labyrinth, for God's sake, one of my favorite scores. So this was an ill-fitting score for him, I think.
He did Time Bandits, mentioned earlier. He did a lot of Terry Gilliam films. He did a lot of Alan Parker films. He did Angel Heart, for God's sake.
He did Excalibur.
Arachnophobia, Last of the Mohicans. These are all appropriate for their fucking movies, man. This one, I do not understand it.
Yeah, I did not like it. But what I hated even more, musically speaking, I don't know if you're prepared to talk about this aspect of it, but this was This was in the thick of the Rockstar soundtrack single that was, I think it was Oscar bait at the time, really. I'm talking about Rod Stewart and his song Rhythm of My Heart, which the score references it here and there instrumentally. You don't hear it, the Rod Stewart version, till the very end. But boy, is it so cloying and it's so cheesy. And it's like, this was really the time of, remember, we talked about Robin Hood, where you have like Bryan Adams doing the song. You had Three Musketeers with Sting and Bryan Adams.
I do it for you. Ballads.
It's just awful. And Rod Stewart, this was in the thick of his I guess it depends on whether you believe his reinterpretation of the American Songbook. His kind of swan song was more or less cheesy than this, but this was his last gasp of pop celebrity, I think.
Okay.
In terms of
before we continue to eviscerate, I just want to say that this terrible fucking song, Rhythm of My Heart, which was not originally recorded by him. There was another artist who wrote and recorded it, and there's a band that covered it. And if you bought the soundtrack to this album, it was that cover you were getting, not the Rod Stewart version, because he recorded it separately on his album a few years beforehand. Anyway, point being, the actual melody of this and the structure of it is just the Bonnie Banks of Loch Lomond, which everybody knows if you watch any cartoon from the 1930s and 40s, which is, you'll take the high road and I'll take the low road. I'll be in Scotland before ye, but me and my true love will never meet again on the Bonnie Banks of Loch Lomond. Okay. That is the basis for so much Scottish music. All the reels and sea shanties and jigs, okay? They're all in there. So there's something just fundamentally that I respond to when I hear that melody. But if you put it in the fucking gravelly throat of that prick, Rod Stewart, and you shoot it through that late era treacly stealing Tom Waits's Midnight Train, fucking, what was the other one? What was the big hit? The Forever Young, with that kid, with that adorable child, making us believe that Rod Stewart is somehow a decent human being when we all know he's not.
It's also a bummer to me on a personal level, because this song was co-written and this is where the Noise Junkies music nerd in me comes out. The song was co-written by a guy named Mark Jordan, Father Malone. He is one of the formative yacht rock classic artists. This guy was responsible for a lot of great albums and a lot of great songs in the yacht rock vein.
Name one.
You won't know any of them because you're not into yacht rock.
You just said great. Name one.
His songs?
Yeah.
Dancing on the Boardwalk.
Don't know
is
it.
One of
Next.
You won't know any of these. But personally, I was let down by the fact that he was into this schmaltz. It was offensive to me. I thought of him as this cool kind of singer-songwriter-y guy, and apparently he has a schmaltzy side too. Marina Del Rey is a great song. It's about a place near where you used to live, near and dear to your heart, California.
I saw a sneak preview for Needful Things in Marina Del Rey.
Really?
Yeah. A test screening for it. Yeah, none of the visual effects were done.
Interesting. So anyway, he's a fabulous singer.
I saw Gil Gerard at a diner, a Ruby's Diner in Marina Del Rey, with a much younger woman, and it made me think that he was gross.
Was that the story where he was wearing a tracksuit?
Yes.
Yeah, I think he told me that. So it's the schmaltziest of the schmaltzy songs, and I guess that was de rigueur for the time and place. It was like, I don't know, if it was something a little less emotionally out there and big and that sort of style, I think I would have appreciated it. Something a little more muted and maybe a little more classy would have been great.
He's not even Scottish.
Rod Stewart?
Yeah.
Look,
Stewart,
Welsh?
He's fucking English.
Is he?
Yeah, man.
I didn't know that.
He's a fucking spoiled English kid. He shouldn't be singing that fucking Scottish song. Fucking
He's a big
soccer person. He's a football guy. You can tell he's just one of those. What is it about this? There's a particular type of English celebrity that like they all just want to be fucking sports stars. And then they like end up at the height of some other career that they fall into. Jason Statham was like Mr. Diving Guy, and now he's the biggest action star in the world. Like Rod Stewart just wanted to kick a ball around and ended up this huge fucking music superstar. I don't know.
There's a lot of that.
Jocks turning into fucking superstars. I don't approve.
But I think you find that typically more with English rock stars than you do with American rock stars. Are there any American like rock stars of that vintage who always wanted to be like baseball players or football players?
There have to be. I know. Okay, this isn't music, but wasn't Kurt Russell? He wanted to be a baseball player, and then injury fed him back into the system, even though he had already been a child actor. So
you can find the reverse example of the actor who wanted to be an actor, but not a reverse thing. Actors, you can find examples like that. I'm saying like rock stars. I can't think of anything. Even I'm sure you could like football players. I'm sure you can find a bunch of them who they wanted to be football players. They injured their knee or something and they had to become actors by default and they ended up being big stars. But I don't know too many. Did Bob Dylan secretly want to be a badminton player or something? I don't know. I can't think of it. I can't think of any examples.
I wonder.
From America.
I'd like to know, actually. I'd like to know some of the people at the top of their game if they had some other career in mind. Up until a point.
I feel like there's an element of boredom to that whole notion because it's like someone like Rod Stewart gets to the top of his game, so to speak. He's the biggest rock star of his era, but it's somehow maybe they just get bored or dissatisfied being just that, and they want to go back to their childhood dream of being like a football star in his case. It's boredom.
Rod Stewart. I'd like to remind everybody there was a moment when he was performing at Red Rocks where there was a gust of wind so strong that it ripped his toupee, including the toupee tape, right off the top of his head and then buffeted away like so much garbage.
Is there a video of that? Can I watch that?
I've only ever heard the story. If it exists, please share it with us and we will share it with everyone because no greater image could exist. It's already epic in my mind. The toupee tape tearing off but struggling for a bit, like gust after gust, and the tape just and Stewart knowing it's going, but nothing he can do about it.
The music was maybe my least favorite part of this movie, ultimately, Father Malone. Obviously you didn't like it, but did you think it was as bad as I did?
This song?
The song and the music I know you basically said that Trevor Jones was a bit of a letdown, but ultimately, do you think that was the worst part of the movie for you? Because you liked the movie better than I did.
I did the movie quite a bit. Yeah, the big letdown is musically. Just as a fan of Scottish music, I put on bagpipes for fun, just to listen. So I'm not expecting a full-on traditional score here. I'm not expecting a full-on orchestral necessarily. It's somewhere in between. I don't know. Like there might have been a little folk band you might have hired to do some traditional stuff here. It just felt all. I'm talking about the score. I'm talking about the Trevor Jones score. That particularly more egregious to me than the song because I think the song just plays in the credits at the end. It's a take it or leave it scenario with that. It doesn't impact the movie at all. It's much more egregious. That score is just trying to elicit emotion where there needn't be any, or trying to heighten it or ramp it up, or I don't know. It's so wrongheaded. It just bothers me. So I'm really bugged by it.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah. No, that's it. Look, there were a lot of ways the movie could have gone. I didn't love it. I really liked Ted Danson. I thought he was great. I loved his relationship with the little girl. I liked Ian Holm, but ultimately I found it more predictable. And that a lot of that could be because of the time and the type of movie it was. I don't think it was intended to be this sort of bait and switch for viewers. You wanted this sort of wonder of the story, and that was fine, but it wasn't maybe what I was looking for. I
did not know, somehow avoided this movie when it came out, somehow avoided any of the artwork or the plot line of the movie. I did not know if we were going to get a Loch Ness Monster in this film. So when it finally showed up, I was pleasantly surprised. And I was specifically pleasantly surprised by the physical creature that they have interacting with our actors. The CGI monster, on the other hand, not so great, but the physical monster is fucking fantastic. I was blown away by it, as a matter of fact.
Yeah. And the actual, like the ship and all the technology they used to find it, that was all very tactile and tangible. Like the texture of it, I thought worked really well. And in fact, just the town itself, I thought was very well rendered in the movie. But I agree, the CG was not good. And I think you could probably just assign the blame to the fact that this is a 30-year-old piece of technology that we're witnessing. And I don't know how it was looked at in the day. I think it's up against, like I said, I brought up Jurassic Park. That was the gold standard for that kind of CGI in a movie, I think, at that time.
Right, where they had come out 3 years prior. So don't do it here. The stuff with the animatronic was great. I don't know that we needed any real range of motion for the thing.
Yeah, they could have accomplished the same thing without actually having so much of the CGI monster there.
I didn't mind a computer generated thing when it was in the water, in the murk. That's fine because it should be weird looking under there. But when they had that fucking beautiful puppet interacting with the little girl, like, why cut to a wide shot where they've got this obviously slapped on computer generated bullshit, like not their image?
Yeah, agreed.
Have we solved it?
We've solved the mystery.
Have we solved the mystery of the Loch Ness Monster? HP?
We have.
I think we have. Is it really there? Was it ever there? Was it a plesiosaur?
You know what? Let's wrap this up. I want to ask you, in wrapping this up, Father Malone, do you believe in the Loch Ness Monster now?
Yes. Now and forever. Because you know why? Because there are some mysteries that deserve to live. And maybe all the old gods stopped existing because we stopped believing in them. And in this case, till my dying breath, I'm going to believe in the Loch Ness Monster. I want it to be there. I know scientifically it makes no sense. It would have to be magic. It would have to be an actual magical animal to continue to exist in this closed environment after we have mapped every fucking inch of that goddamn lake. It would have to be. Look, I know there's this other theory that there's another cave and it goes down there, but how would it be? Okay, it doesn't make sense. Yes, it still exists, but it doesn't make sense.
I'm of the same mind. I'm a firm believer. I want to believe that it exists like you do. And I guess there's so much in the world, and the world is so much smaller than it was when we were kids. And a lot of the mysteries have been exposed as during our lifetime. I do want to believe it's there, but a part of me still thinks maybe it's possible. Maybe this thing is just evading every attempt at finding it. I will say I don't believe Bigfoot exists. There's other cryptids that I'm fairly certain do not exist. I think you're the one who told me that the famous Bigfoot film was just a hoax by John Landis, I think, was involved, wasn't he?
No. No. Okay, look, there is a rumor about the Rick Baker, John Landis involved in a Bigfoot film. There's a pretty great National Geographic special about Bigfoot where they interview a fella who was a friend of the guy who like turned in the footage to begin with, and they surreptitiously filmed this old man walking across the street on his way to the meeting, and goddamned if he doesn't walk exactly like Bigfoot in the famous footage. That might be him. Yes, but there have been sightings of Yeti in the Himalayas. There have been sightings of Bigfoot elsewhere. He's a possibility. I'm going to still believe in that guy too.
Maybe.
And if I'm the one debunking it to you, I continue to believe in him.
No, but at a minimum, I want to believe that the Loch Ness Monster exists. And I don't really, it's not going to ruin my life to know whether it's there or whether it's not there. But isn't life a little more fun with a little bit of mystery, a little bit of magic, of wondering, does it exist? And if it does exist, where is it? How does it, whatever. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with some mystery around it.
Me too. If there's a Kelpie out there, I hope it's continuing. I hope it's continuing health and a hardy lifestyle. And also, I want to mention the bunyip in Australia, which is a kind of a cousin to these water monsters. the bunyip to me is the most terrifying cryptid out there. Now, it probably because as a child, I saw that film Dot and the Kangaroo, and they have a nightmare sequence with a bunyip and a song called like Bunyip Moon, which is basically like Aboriginal drawings come to life. And it fucked me up, HP. So I just want to say, bunyip, those I hope don't exist. How about that? Take that, bunyip.
I've never heard of the bunyip. I will have to do some research. For me, I think one of the more terrifying cryptids that I've heard of, I don't know a ton about this, but I think the Mothman is scary because, I don't know, there's something about this creature that's flying, and every encounter seems to be happening at night when you're driving and it's raining and this thing comes out of nowhere and makes you crash the car. There's something freaky about that. It's flying. Is it an insect? Is it a man? What is it? That's the kind of cryptid that's scary to me. The chupacabra, also pretty scary. This weird, is it from Spain or Mexico?
Mexico. It'll suck your goats.
That's right. So I love, I don't know. There was something about cryptids we talked about when we were kids, the wonder and the mystery of it all. And thank goodness some of that mystery still exists in this world. Let's not explain everything. Everything doesn't have to be explained. Let's leave a little mystery.
And on that note, on our next Fusco Festival, I don't know what. Okay, on the next midnight viewing, that's going to be Father Malone's Weekly Roundup. That's coming up this Monday. I apologize to everyone if you tuned in this past Monday and I wasn't there. I'm fine. I'll explain a little bit more on the roundup itself. Till then, HP will be back on Fusco Fest, whatever that next movie ends up being. Should be Spirit, the Stallion of the Cimarron, but Hidalgo we've got coming up as well. Looking forward to both of those. Hidalgo in particular. I fucking love that movie. Anyway, till then, HP, where can people find you?
All right. I am the co-host of the Night Mr. Walters Taxi podcast with my esteemed co-host, Father Malone, sitting across from me here. I host the Noise Junkies music podcast for music nerds. Please check that out. And I'm an occasional guest on the Culture Cast with Chris Dashew. And finally, I have a Bandcamp site, hpmusicplace.bandcamp.com. Check that out as well. That's where you can find me.
As for me, you're hearing it here on Midnight Viewing. Check us out every Monday for Father Malone's Weekly Roundup, and check us out every Friday for either a Tales from the Dark Side or an Anthologies Attack or a Fusco Fest. We've got too much going on. In fact, we've got another show coming out this fucking fall. I've already signed up for. God damn it, I'm collaborating with Paul Waller. We've got a new show coming out called Little Old Lady Got Mutilated Late Last Night. So look for that sometime around October. Until next time, going to leave you with a little bit from this flick.
Jack the Ripper. Was he a prosperous London surgeon? Perhaps a member of British royalty? Well, our bullshit team has unearthed spectacular new evidence which suggests that Jack the Ripper was, in fact, the Loch Ness Monster. Is it possible that Nessie murdered 5 streetwalkers before returning to Loch Ness? Using undiscovered evidence, we've pieced together the events leading up to the first murder. Although this is a bullshit reenactment, it may have happened just this way.
Hello, dearie. Show you a good time for a quid. For the wife and for free. Oh, gents, don't you want a girl to keep you warm tonight? Me mum told me there would be nights like this. Oh, my. You are a big one now, aren't you? Come on, darling. Mind you, don't you be stepping on my feet now. Aren't you in a hurry? Now, will you be careful? Not so rough. Wait a minute.
Is this the way it happened? Was Jack the Ripper, in fact, a 60-foot sea serpent from Scotland? Did I take this job for a quick buck? We may never know the answer to these questions.
Hello, this is Aaron West. I am the author of the A24 New Wave. In this book, I look at A24's output and I make the argument that we are in a new wave movement right now. A24 plays a major role. This book has a supplemental podcast where each episode is a brief conversation about an A24 related topic, whether an actor, director, or even a genre. As I continue research for the book and conduct interviews, I expect to record podcast episodes with people involved with the company. You can find the podcast at cinejourneys.com or wherever you find podcasts, and we are proud to be members of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Hello, this is Chris Haskell from They Live by Film. For those that don't know us, Adam, Zach, and we built a podcast over the last 2 years that's a combination of film discussion from 3 very different perspectives, as well as industry interviews with the leaders in boutique Blu-ray and 4K community. We started with Dev Crocodile, but over time we've been lucky enough to speak with Arrow Video, Severin, Mondo Macabro, Vinegar Syndrome, Radiance, Indicator, most of the OCN partner labels. It's been a blast. You can find us wherever you podcast, and also actually recently as part of Someone's Favorite Production podcast network. We hope to see you online.